Hey folks, 2 years ago, we launched Soul Boom with a very simple idea. Let's dig deep into life, into meaning, into spirituality, into idiocy, life's biggest possible questions. What does it mean to live with purpose? How do we grow spiritually in a chaotic world? How do we become more compassionate, curious, and awake as human beings? And since then, Soul Boom has grown into something really special. And honestly, that's because of you. Thank you. Everyone, anyone who has listened, watched, shared conversations with friends, left comments, sent messages, or just quietly reflected on the conversations in your own life. Thank you, truly. Thank you so much. This community exists because of your curiosity and openness to exploring these deeper questions. And so, for our 2-year anniversary, we wanted to celebrate with you and with some of our favorite guests from the show over the last 2 years. In the spirit of self-reflection, let's look back on the wisdom, laughter, and powerful reflections we've gained from the incredible guests. Some of your favorites, some of my favorites, but probably mostly the favorites of my insubordinate producer. Idiot. Oh, and by the way, if you've been enjoying the show, the best way to help us keep growing in this community is very simple. First of all, buy our products from our sponsors. Leave us a review on your podcast app of choice. Comment on the episode down below on a moment that moved you. Share the episode and or hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Thank you so much. Thanks for being a part of this journey. Any one of those things would absolutely delight me, I promise you. So let us revisit some of the most powerful and soulful moments over the last 2 years from Soul Boom. Enjoy the show. Hey there, it's me, Rainn Wilson, and I want to dig into the human experience. I want to have conversations about a spiritual revolution. Let's get deep with our favorite thinkers, friends, and entertainers about life, meaning, and idiocy. Welcome to the Soul Boom podcast. A quick shout out to our sponsors, Proton. Go to proton.me/soulboom to take control of your private and digital life. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month's subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code SOULBOOM. Don't keep settling for clothes that don't last. Go to QUINCE.com/SOULBOOM for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/SOULBOOM. Head to CozyEarth.com and use my code SOULBOOM for up to 20% off. That's code SOULBOOM for up to 20% off. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here. Enjoy the show.
What is the best argument you've ever heard in your infinite number of debates, both online and in person, for the existence of God?
There are so many. I think there's even an argument for the existence of God that can be made just from the number of arguments for the existence of God. The fact that there's an argument from beauty, an argument from contingency, from ontology, from maths, from like any way you look, there's an argument for God. So you can always make an argument for God's existence from the sheer number of arguments for God's existence.
I haven't heard that before. That's great.
Depends what you mean. My favorite for a while has been the so-called ontological argument, where you sort of think God into existence. I think it's quite fun. You can just do it from an armchair. It doesn't require any observation. I mean, that's quite fun. I mean, it goes back to St. Anselm, who is praying. He's writing down this prayer. And he sort of challenges you in a way. He says, can you conceive of the greatest conceivable being? Just think of the greatest conceivable being. So whatever qualities it has, power, goodness, all this kind of stuff, just turn it up to the maximal conceivable amount, right? And you got it in your head? You're picturing, you're thinking of just the greatest conceivable being? Okay, does that being exist in reality? Here's the problem. If you say no, then you're not doing what I asked you to. Because you can conceive of
But isn't that a limitation of the mind? I mean, we talked about this in terms of the Baha'i faith, about God being the unknowable essence, and that men have created a God in their minds that they falsely worship, right?
But we're not talking about God. We're just talking about the greatest conceivable being, which by definition, you can conceive of. You just go to the ends of your conceivability.
Okay.
Now, Anselm's like, you can conceive of that being existing just in your mind, or existing in your mind and also in reality. So if the thing you're picturing is something like a really powerful, really loving, really, great being, it kind of approximates what people call God. You can imagine that either just existing in your mind as you're thinking about it, or maybe it exists in your mind, but it also exists in reality. But if it exists in reality and the mind, then it's greater. It's got more existence, right? And so when you're just asked to conceive of the greatest conceivable being, if you're not automatically thinking of a being that exists in reality, then you're not thinking of the greatest conceivable being. But because you can think of the greatest conceivable being by definition, you're automatically thinking of a being that exists in reality. Therefore, this God must exist in reality. It's my favorite because it sounds a bit stupid.
Steven's not. You're not buying it. We can't.
He said, what about the greatest conceivable unicorn? This is the greatest objection to Anselm. People say, oh, well, you're just thinking God into existence, because what about the greatest conceivable unicorn? Like, okay, but what you've just done is limited your scope. Because I asked you to imagine... the one on the mug.
Unicorn right here.
I was like, okay, imagine the greatest conceivable thing, right? And I'm like, that thing must exist in reality. Okay, well, the greatest conceivable unicorn has limited our scope, right? There could be a unicorn that you're imagining that's greater than another unicorn you're imagining, right? Okay, we can make that unicorn a better unicorn by giving it a sharper horn and a more beautiful mane or whatever. But like, even if we imagine the greatest conceivable unicorn, we can make that unicorn a greater conceivable thing by giving it even more qualities. Well, let's make that unicorn all powerful,
telepathic, and
it doesn't make it a better unicorn, but it makes it a better thing, right? And so, like, the question is, does the unicorn existing in reality make it a better unicorn than just existing in the mind? And it seems like kind of not really, because the things that make a unicorn great are things like a nice mane, a pointy horn and stuff. And the one in your head has all of those things. It has all of the things that are the great making properties of a unicorn. It's all in the one that you're thinking of. And if it existed in reality, I don't know if that is a better great making property of a unicorn, right? Whereas if you're asking about the greatest conceivable thing, then you're maximizing all the properties, not just the unicorn making properties, but all properties a thing can have, including levels of existence. It's a bit much. Like it's why I sort of hesitate to bring it up, because it is my favorite, but it's a bit difficult.
But let's continue on that, because what comes to my mind, and we discussed this when I was on your pod, is I tried to be an atheist.
Yeah,
and I really spent a good couple years, at least, just really trying to exist in a world that inherently didn't have any meaning to it, or didn't have any kind of transcendent power beyond what could be kind of determined through scientific diagnosis. And it just didn't add up to me. It didn't make sense to me. It didn't work for me. It just didn't add up. I mean, I guess, what's the famous watch on the beach analogy of God?
Yeah, the teleological argument.
Yes, that if you're walking along a beach and you see a perfectly functioning Swiss watch, you're not going to go, oh, wow, all of these elements just fell together here on this beach and created this beautiful, perfect watch that's incredibly... You'd be like, there's someone made the watch.
Yeah.
When I deeply imagine a three-dimensional universe made of, energy, but, matter and atoms and dark matter, and there was a big bang, and there's galaxies, and that it just happened, it just existed, it just sprang into existence, and that there are physical laws, and then somehow out of that chemistry became biology, and creatures were created, and there was paramecium, and then there was little amoebas and whatnot, and then they evolved into creatures, and somehow we have a creature and we have a large consciousness, and we're having this conversation over this podcast. When I think of the totality of that, without any kind of greater power or energy, it doesn't make sense to me, not just on a cognitive level. It just doesn't make sense in my heart. It doesn't make sense in my life experience. When I picture all of that with some kind of greater unknowable energy beyond time and space coursing through it, it makes total sense to me. So does that go hand in hand with what you're talking about a conception of God? Because you can say, try and conceive of a universe without anything other than stuff and the properties that govern that stuff.
There are two things to say here. One is that, like, can we understand how things like emergent conscious experience just appear in this universe if there's no God? but also can we understand how there's like complexity without some kind of creator? On the first point, I saw a video the other day of like a CPU in a computer, this tiny little microchip zoomed in on a microscope, and it's incredible. I mean, they are so tiny and just packed with little electronic functions. And I genuinely just don't understand how computers work. I do not understand how people get a bunch of like metal and copper and stuff like this and sort of arrange it in a particular way, and you're able to sort of produce like
you're able to watch this video on a YouTube channel,
like
beamed over.
Like all of this is just because people have put atoms in the right order, doing things that now people can like hear the words that we're saying.
Instead of a table or a shoe, it's a computer.
But it like, and I'm like that is an unfathomable mystery to me. Like, am I like if I saw a computer for the first time, and I was playing chess with it, and it was talking back to me, and it was connected to the internet, and it allowed me to speak to my mother halfway across the globe or something, right? I said, what on earth is this? Like if you showed it to someone 200 years ago, they said, what is this magic? What is this sorcery? And you said, oh, it's just made out of like, metal and zeros and ones. They would literally just not believe you. They'd be like, that. I'm sorry, that doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. But the computer is in fact reducible to those metal objects just clanging into each other and producing this orders of magnitude more confusing and amazing.
But there weren't a bunch of molecules in a shoebox and you shook them up.
No.
And then it's like monkeys writing Shakespeare, and then you pull it out and there's a laptop.
By the way, they've actually done that research. Somebody put some monkeys in a room with a typewriter. It turns out that they don't type randomly. They had like a fondness for the letter F or something. So you probably wouldn't get Shakespeare even with an infinite amount of time. But
that's cute.
Like, so the other problem. So there's firstly like, can this all be reducible to the material? I struggle with that. I think that would be incredible if it were the case. But I think it's incredible to imagine that computers can do that, but we know that they do. The other question then is, where does that complexity come from? No matter whether you can create these incredible emergent things, why is there that complexity? Who put it that way? And of course, the problem with the watch analogy is that we don't believe that complexity, like biological complexity, just came about, just popped into existence. We believe that it evolved through natural selection. And so it'd be as if you saw this watch. It was incredibly complex. And then you discovered billions of years of watches which somehow were able to reproduce themselves. And every time they reproduced, they had slight differences. Sometimes they ran a little faster, sometimes a little slower. And for some reason, whichever ones were closer to accurately recording the time were more likely to keep reproducing.
Yes, but if there's also
that would sort of do away with the mystery a bit.
But if there's also the second law of thermodynamics that says that everything is going to be falling apart, why is there an impetus towards life and ever-increasing complexity?
Because that applies in a closed system. And of course, we're constantly getting extra energy from outside of the Earth. We get it from the sun. So eventually, this will all have to come to an end and we'll all sort of die in a heat death. But for now, like entropy can go in the wrong direction in isolated pockets. And that's something like what's happening on
this podcast.
But it can't go on forever, is probably the point. But I don't want to just dismiss it, because it is a powerful consideration. Why is there something rather than nothing? How do we explain this complexity? We can explain the complexity of biological organisms, but we can't explain the complexity of the fine-tuning of the universe, those constants. That's something that's outside of our purview, and that's still a mystery. But I would just remind people to keep in mind that there can be things which are inconceivable and yet are the case, like the reducibility of computers. For the person 500 years ago, they literally just wouldn't be able to comprehend what you're talking about, because even to be able to organize like metallic objects on that microscopic level for any reason would have been impossible to them, let alone doing it in such a way that brings about a perfect representation of somebody across the globe who can then talk back to you. They just would not believe you. They would not believe you. And yet it can be done. There are greater things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy,
Which would always consistently point me toward the divine. But what would it take for you to become a theist? Would it take increased understanding? Would it be an argument? Would it be some kind of scientific proof, on some kind of, molecular level or some kind of string theory or unified theory or something like that, being proved that kind of has a light bulb go off for you? Or would it be some kind of lived experience, some kind of transcendent experience that you had with either psychedelics or falling in love or through tragedy or a vision? Or would it take some combination of all of those? Or could it ever possibly happen to you or someone like you?
I think it would be the second. I think it would be an experience for a few reasons. The first is that I think that the most plausible of traditional religions is probably a form of Christianity, because I think it has the best historical evidence, especially if you don't need to swallow the idea that Jesus is God. He's just like all this kind of stuff. I think that's kind of plausible. And within Christianity, it's quite clear that the way that people come to God is through experience.
Why Christianity over Islam?
I think it has better historical case for the crucifixion and resurrection of Jesus, both of which Islam denies.
So you would need a miracle like a resurrection to kind of prove to you the divine truth of Christianity?
No, I think that if the resurrection of Jesus happened as it was recorded, that would be a pretty good indication that there's something really special about this Jesus guy, and we should be taking what he says very seriously. Like Muslims will say the same thing, that Jesus is a very serious guy who needs to be taken seriously, but they don't believe he was crucified. So if we knew that he was crucified and resurrected, we'd know we'd need to pay attention to him, and in a way that Muslims have misunderstood because they don't believe in that. Of course, I don't believe that Jesus did rise from the dead. I think that there's better evidence for that as a historical case for this like worldly religion than there is for other world religions.
Okay.
I might be wrong about that, but I do think personal experience is the way to bring it about.
Why do so many religious people do so many horrific things?
Beautiful, because every single one of us is a naturally spiritual being. And when we realize our natural spirituality, we're less addicted and depressed, and we're better to each other. Spirituality is innate with its own neural correlates and its genetic markers. Religion is 100% environmentally transmitted. We aren't born religious beings, we're born spiritual beings. Religion, for many people, can cultivate their natural spirituality, but we are spiritual whether or not we are religious. So when you say, hey, wait a minute, why is he doing that if he's a religious person? The question is he using his innate, hardwired seat of perception to be loving, guiding, and never leave anyone alone?
There's a difference between preaching what you believe and preaching your point of view. And when you express religion, God, faith, atheism, whatever it might be, people might be feeling that you're telling me that I'm wrong or what I need to think, as opposed to saying, here's how I see this, and this is how I feel about it. And I don't remember what I said. I do remember the feeling. This is a bit hyperbolic, I guess, but people either believe in God and like, God is real, God is great, I live for God. They're here, and then there's a huge gap where not many people live. And then over here, it's, you fucking idiot. You believe in a ghost upstairs who created the world in 7 days? It very much feels like politics too, where it's like, where's the centrist mentality? Like, where's the maybe? Where's the I don't know? Where's the probably nots? There's such certainty that this is or is not.
Well, I want to push back on that a little bit, because the fastest growing religion in the United States is spiritual, but not religious.
Right.
And many of the spiritual, but not religious, have a very different kind of conception of God, where it's much more like the spirit of nature or of just kind of general love in the world.
Right.
And many of them are agnostic. Many of them are like, I don't really know. There's quite the survey that I read, hardcore atheists are like less than 15%. And there's almost equal amount of agnostics, of people that don't know. So I feel like the spiritual but not religious and the agnostic do make up that center, and that's a pretty big portion of the population.
That very much makes sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
There is a traditional view of God, and there's many, many different gods.
Sure.
But there's
the Abrahamic view of,
yes.
I call it in the book, Sky Daddy.
Well, not just Abrahamic view. There's also I don't know enough about it, but there's also like the Quran side.
But Islam is an Abrahamic
Is it?
religion.
I thought Abrahamic religion came
And
into...
it's Abraham and Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. In Islam,
those all
it's
come
called
from
the
Old Testament?
and it all comes the people of the book. The Islam sees itself very much as a fulfillment of that lineage.
Then the Abrahamic God is
Patriarchal.
is where it becomes something to follow. I mean, in a quite literal sense, just governmental policies that are based off of religion. But like there are people that are living their life for religion, and then there's people that don't. And to me, I don't know. I guess I don't understand it well enough. But spiritual, I feel like I'm a spiritual person. I feel like life has meaning within its life that isn't necessarily otherworldly. Like I think Avatar does the best version of that. Like everything is connected in a way, and I think that's beautiful and spiritual. But like religion, talking about religion is taboo now. Do you disagree?
Well, again, I want to separate religion from spirituality because, yes, there is a lot of taboo about talking about religion.
Right.
And that bleeds over into spirituality. And I think especially in the comedy world, where if you talk about spirituality, people in the comedy world like, uh-oh, they really want to talk about religion, and I bet they're going to try and convert me and like you say, or preach to me or something like that.
Yeah.
But I say in Soul Boom, hold it up faster. Cover. I say in Soul Boom, I feel like we've thrown the spiritual baby out with the religious bathwater. So we threw the religious bathwater out, but we've also lost a lot of the beautiful, rich wisdom traditions and meaning from the world's great faith traditions that we could benefit from individually and societally.
Would you say that spirituality then is perhaps the philosophy of religion and the intention behind it, and not necessarily the miracle of it?
I think that's very well said.
Even as an atheist, if someone walks into a cathedral and there's stained glass and there's music playing, it's beautiful, and someone says, "I feel God here," that's an experience. They're using a mouth sound God to describe what they're feeling. And even to this day, if someone were to say that, I would say, "I feel God here too," because now we're just using a word to share an experience, a shared experience that we're having. But then when someone says God says this or is this or does this or whatever, okay, that's different. That's a truth claim that we're making, about God and the nature of the universe, and that's where I'm going to be much more skeptical or wary of using that word. But that word of "I feel God here," I have no problem as an atheist saying that, because that's an experience that is permeated in my life.
I think that's a quote from The Office. I feel God in this Chili's tonight.
That's right. That's right.
So Pam was right.
Maybe Pam was right all along.
She felt God in the chili.
Pam the theologian was onto something.
I think so. There's someone could write a book on the spirituality of The Office. Get on that, folks. What is your true identity? Some traditions say it is your soul. Some say it is your consciousness. The internet says it is your digital footprint. And honestly, these days, the internet might be right. Just your email's inbox connects your bank, your job, your shopping, your travel, your social media, everything. Which is why it's mildly horrifying that most email services scan your inbox and collect data to target you with ads. With new generations, it's even worse. Proton Mail does things differently, and that's why SoulBoom is partnering with them. Proton lets you reserve a private email username for your child for up to 15 years, so their digital life starts private from day one, which honestly sounds like a pretty enlightened way to begin an online existence. If protecting your soul sounds like a lot right now, why don't you just start with your email? Try Proton Mail for free by going to proton.me/soulboom. Let's talk about hair strategy. Look, hair changes over time, but you can take a proactive approach, and that's why I've been using Nutrafol Men. Nutrafol is physician-formulated, clinically tested, and recommended by dermatologists. Instead of quick fixes, it's designed to target root causes that can affect hair thickness and shedding. My routine is simple. I take 4 capsules daily with a meal. I've been consistent with it, and personally, I have noticed some hair growth and a little less shedding while taking Nutrafol. And I like that it's something you can build into a daily routine. No complicated systems,
difference, just consistency. Nutrafol now offers hair growth supplements tailored to men at every age because the root causes of hair thinning change over time, and your routine should too. Nutrafol Men for ages 18 to 49 to help improve hair growth and achieve thicker, fuller hair in 3 to 6 months. And new Nutrafol Men 50 Plus, the first and only hair growth product specifically formulated for men over 50. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand trusted by over 1.5 million people. Start Nutrafol today and make the hat optional. Visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code SOULBOOM for $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping. Find out why Nutrafol is the best-selling hair growth supplement brand at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code SOULBOOM. That's Nutrafol.com, promo code SOULBOOM.
How would you diagnose Dwight Schrute and the various kind of things that push and pull him to being both a people pleaser and kind of a bully at the same time?
Do you actually want me to answer the question? I think for me to answer that question, I need to ask you one.
Okay.
Because motivation and intention matters.
Okay.
So what do you think motivated him, or what the intention was with people pleasing, but then also bullying?
I think Dwight is all about rules and hierarchies.
Mm-hmm.
I think, you know, when you see the Terminator and like the Terminator has options and it's like one, you know, say, fuck you, motherfucker, or say, I'll be back or whatever. He has like those options.
Mm-hmm.
Like Dwight is eternally seeing a list of options.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, a hierarchy, Michael being his boss, bosses are to be lauded, respected, revered, kissed up to.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of similar to our current political situation in the United States right now, a little bit.
So.
But at the same time, inferiors he holds in disdain.
Mm-hmm.
And there are right ways and wrong ways of doing things. And he is there to make money and profit and be the best possible paper salesman. And whether he's liked or not liked. And ultimately, he's a Schrute above and beyond. So it's kind of loyalty not just to his family, but to the family structures and strictures that kind of motivate him. There is a larger Schrute cause.
I love that you said that. You know what he made me think of? He made me think of Jean-Paul Sartre.
Okay.
And when he talks about our willingness to surrender our freedom for structure. And so many people do that because I think it's actually an easier way to live, is to pick a structure, be it religious or political, or it really doesn't matter what kind of organization you want to believe in, and go, I'm going to abide by whatever you want me to abide by. I have made one choice and the rest I'm surrendering. Meaning I don't have to constantly be making these deliberate, authentic, thoughtful choices. I have now, by making this one choice, sort of surrendered the rest of my freedom, or so we think. And people do that with religion, but people do that with work as well. And so I see Dwight.
Can I throw something else?
Yes, of course.
I think I see a lot of young contemporary people, but I think this has always been the case, doing that with just the strictures of contemporary society. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm going to be materialistic. People on TikTok want me to look great. I'm going to work on looking great. They want to be more popular, so I'm going to use social media to try and be more popular. I'm going to buy things that are easy. I'm going to have superficial conversations.
Yeah.
I'm going to just seek kind of a social evolution that is culturally and socially acceptable.
Yeah. They chose a place where they wanted to belong. And then they decided to just do everything they needed to in order to belong. It's really that simple. And I see Dwight exactly the same way. He's like, I want to belong to this amazing paper company. I am a Schrute, which means that I work hard. There are all these prescribed ways that he needs to live his like life to be the Schrute. And then that's what he did. Instead of sitting there and being like, do I like paper? Does this resonate with me? What beliefs have led to me treating, a Pam trying to this way? And I think what it does, it alleviates us from thinking, truly. And I think we see that in society all the time, where we have chosen a path so that we don't really have to think very much. And we have other people to tell us exactly what to do and how to think and how to behave and who we should become. I also think, maybe Dwight doesn't fully fall into that category, but I think that's how we alleviate our anxiety of freedom, is like choosing one path and going full force. And that's what I see that he did.
And a lot of people will do that, and then they'll have a nervous breakdown.
Yeah.
In their 20s, 30s, or 40s, or especially like 40s, 50s, that's kind of the traditional time to like, wow.
It's earlier now.
I thought I wanted to be the best insurance agent and have a house on this particular cul-de-sac and have 2.4 kids and whatever. and then everything falls apart. But you're right. I think even younger now, you see people having kind of like meaning of life breakdowns at 28.
I didn't know I had mental illness. I really didn't until much later. And so it was untreated. I think people can like live with mental illness, which is what I'm living with, but mine was untreated for so long. And because I was getting rewarded like through YouTube and money, I was like kept going with it until I realized it was like, okay, like I can't do it anymore.
What were the symptoms of your mental illness? How did it manifest?
Well, at first it was just, I attribute a lot of it to like abusing like prescription pills. So I thought, well, maybe it's like when I'm using this, it's just I'm a little unhinged. But then when I wasn't, it was 2019. I don't know. I just like something happened where I got 5150'd. I had just gone through a breakup, and
What's 5150'd for those who don't know?
Oh, it's like a involuntary hold. So like in California,
danger to self or others.
Yeah. Okay. So okay.
I know.
So, yeah.
Some of our viewers may not.
Okay, right. So I got 5153 times that year, and the first was I just remember waking up in like Cedars-Sinai, and my ex-boyfriend at the time was there, and then someone I was filming with at the time was there, and they were like filming, like they had their camera and stuff, and I just lost it. I ran through Cedars-Sinai. They shot me with like Ativan, and I just like couldn't calm down. And so that was like the first time it happened. Went to the mental hospital. So I have borderline personality disorder, which is more of like a personality disorder. And I had trouble like regulating my emotions. I thought relationships were more intense than they were. I would like have like these fantasies, but also like I would disassociate at the same time. So there was like delusion, there was dissociation, there was like a lot happening. And yeah, I think it wasn't until then that I saw a therapist who was like, oh, this might be something you have, which then they referred me to DBT classes, which is it's like a group therapy for people with borderline.
Dialectical behavior therapy.
Yeah.
And how did that help specifically?
Oh, it helped.
Is that what helped turn the corner?
Yes.
So what about it specifically?
I like the group aspect of it. I was always someone that like just wanted private therapy, or actually I wasn't doing any therapy up until 2019, but I love the group aspect of just like hearing other people like share like what I was going through, because I didn't know what splitting was. I didn't know what disassociating was. And I was
what is splitting and disassociating? Tell us.
So like disassociating, like just like you almost like black out. There'd be times when I couldn't even remember, like people would tell me what happened. I'm like, I just don't remember that happening, because I would totally black out almost. And I guess I did it since childhood. When you asked me about childhood, so much of that I just disassociated from, where it's like I don't remember. It's kind of a blur, like memories, but like I just don't remember a lot of it. And same thing splitting. It's like all or nothing, right? It's like, I'm obsessed with someone or I completely hate someone, and I can just turn like in an instant, like it's a different person. So I thought, did I have multiple personality disorder? Did I have all this? So when I went to the group therapy classes, they really taught you the skills on, for me, it's breathing, which now, and later on I had another rock bottom in 2021, but for me, it's like kind of like my meditation now. But in DBT, they call it wise mind, which is like, just really like counting the spaces in between breaths, which is basically for me like meditation.
So show us wise mind right now. Can you demonstrate?
So it would be like, if I was getting overwhelmed, right, and I want to like snap on someone, like, and this just works for me, not for everybody, but it really was like taking the breaths, right? You just go, you like count, and then you see the spaces in between, and you just count. You either see the spaces or you count the breaths. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and like an exhale. So it's like, and then just like watching the spaces pass. As I've gotten into like meditation, sometimes I see like clouds passing or my problems passing, or just kind of like taking a moment, which I don't think I ever did. I was very quick to react, which is why all my videos online are me just like really angry and aggressively reacting to anyone who said anything about me. Yeah, which is scary for people. It's scary for people in real life, because I was snapping on my people in real life, and I'm like, this is just who I am. Like, this is just what it is.
Were you sober at that point in time?
Yeah, because I wouldn't say I was ever like addicted. I said I would use when I was around people who would use. So if someone was like, that was the year of my meth, right? But like Xanax, all this stuff like that. So I was sober. And I think that helped a lot. I was also like very alone, and I just never did good alone. So with the group, I just felt like I had people to talk to.
That was the first time I learned about the observer.
Yeah.
And that changed a lot. That changed a lot.
Tell us about your experience of the observer. How does that work?
Well, I never even thought about it until I listened to Power of Now. And I tried to kind of go, is that real? And then just when I said, is that real? Something was observing me say that, you know what I mean? And I kind of explored that. I still explore it today, but I really do believe that my thoughts aren't who I am, you know? And so that thing that's watching it all happen and observing it is who I am. So it's like, my brain is going to do all kinds of fucking things, especially I'm a kid of deep trauma, you know? So it's like, I'm going to tell you something crazy. So, this is how poorly I used to treat myself because of my trauma, okay? One time I auditioned for this Amy Poehler. She was producing some show. And I prepared. And I walked into the audition. And I don't know what happened. There were so many people in the room, and I completely lost. I just got in my head. I couldn't remember the lines. And then I got nervous. So I went to the car, and I took a bottle of water like this big, and one of those smart waters, completely filled. I smashed my head over it until I was bleeding through my face. I would punish myself, you know what I mean? For just do something that my dad would do, maybe, you know what I mean? And it's so after that experience, I really had to do a lot of like, because that seeped into all my life, even doing stand-up. If I had a bad show, I would punish myself.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, I had to like turn to Eckhart Tolle and these things and just go and really just take a minute, right? Not react, right? Even if I'm like in a conversation with somebody, just step back 5-10 minutes and observe my thoughts, right? And get grounded, you know? And I had to learn all that because if I didn't do that, I'd probably kill myself. You know what I mean? Not kill myself, but I would hurt myself and I would treat myself poorly. And I don't want to allow myself to do that anymore. You know, I just, you know, I'm going to say something so cheesy, but maybe 6 months ago, I had a tough last year, really tough. So many bad things happened. And after I got through all that, I was in the bathtub taking a bath, and I was rubbing my body with soap. So cheesy. And I said to myself, I'm so proud of you. And I wept in that bathtub, you know, because I'm really trying.
You parented yourself.
Yeah.
In a way that your parents didn't.
Yeah. And you know, my mom, they did the best they could. I mean, they went through their own trauma. They were kids during the Korean War. They saw death. You know what I mean? They didn't have any parenting, you know. And then my parents come to Korea, and my dad beats my mom, beats the kids, me and my brother. And, you know, my mom has a missing tooth, you know what I mean? Because he punched it out. And you witness all that stuff. And later in life, you find out that, you know, it's just generational trauma.
Yeah.
He did what he could, you know what I mean?
And his dad probably beat the shit out of him.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know, you have kids?
I have one teenage son.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't have any kids, but if I do have them, I feel like I'll change. It'll be different.
Hey folks, let's get real. I don't know how to dress myself. Everything I own is outdated or gives me a rash, and that's why I started wearing Quince. Finally, I can replace all of my staple pieces. You know, the shirt from 2009, the sweater that shrank in the wash. See, eventually you realize that the goal isn't having more clothes. It's actually having clothes that work together, like this delicious linen red Quincy shirt. Quince makes really well-built everyday essentials, lightweight cashmere sweaters, short-sleeve Mongolian cashmere polos, linen shorts and pants, tees made from 100% Pima cotton. And the reason they're affordable? It's actually quite simple. Quince works directly with top factories and cuts out the middleman. No luxury brand markup, no expensive retail stores. Those linen shorts have become my go-to. I'd be wearing them right now, but the producer refused to help me pull them up. The point is, they don't wrinkle like cheap linen does. They work with everything and they don't cost a fortune. Right now, go to quince.com/soulboom for free shipping and 365-day returns. That's a full year to build your wardrobe and love it. And you will. Now available in Canada too. So don't keep settling for clothes that don't last. Go to quince.com/soulboom for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/soulboom. At Soul Boom, we talk a lot on this show about consciousness, awareness, spiritual awakening. But let's be honest, none of that happens if your sleep frickin' sucks. And one thing I can't emphasize enough is that temperature actually matters a lot for sleep. Enter Cozy Earth. What I learned is that your body naturally cools down at night to trigger melatonin, and that helps you fall asleep faster and stay asleep. Cozy Earth sheets are made from bamboo viscose that naturally helps regulate temperature and wick away heat and moisture, so you actually sleep cooler and more comfortably. Cozy Earth also offers 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty, so you can try them risk-free. Because a good sleep isn't a luxury, it's the foundation of being a functional human. Discover how care in every detail transforms simple routines into moments of true comfort and ease. Head to CozyEarth.com and use my code SOULBOOM for up to 20% off. That's code SOULBOOM for up to 20% off. And if you get a post-purchase survey, be sure to mention you heard about Cozy Earth right here on SoulBoom. Experience the craft behind the comfort and make every day feel intentional.
I need to bring love into all of my situations, all of my relationships, and to recognize that if I can't bring love into a situation, it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me, but nor does it mean that there's something wrong with that person. It means that I haven't yet discovered how to love in this situation. Let me stay open to how could I love in this situation? I don't know. What a great question to live in. So I try to live my life in questions rather than in answers. I try to not demonize others for their perspectives and their opinions. And I leave myself open to being guided by something other than my best thinking as to the next right action. All that being said, there's something to be said for social insistence on change. I see that all of our problems are based in the fact that all value has been reduced to money. There's no more valuation of quality of life, no valuation of love, of community. There's valuation of money, and I need to get mine in order to be okay. And we all have to find the values that live within us rather than accepting the values that are offered us by society. Morality is not about following a rule system over there. It's about getting in here and going like, what matters to me? What's right? Not what my fear tells me to get, but what's right? Well, how do I get there? Stop listening to the fear. Listen for the love in here. Find the way to go in here. And we change the world by what we have become, not by what we do. And if all of us are looking for peace, peace is going to begin to be found.
But we're not all looking for peace.
No, we're not. But I don't have any control over what you're looking for. And for me to demonize you for not looking for peace is for me to not find peace in that area. How do I find peace in that area? You think about Gandhi. He brought the British Empire to its knees by insisting on nonviolence. Who can do that? I can't do that. I don't know how to do that, but he did that. He insisted on not hating. That's a good start.
How do you define God?
I define God, and this is not me being a jerk. I define God as that thing that can't be defined, but that has all these different aspects that indicate a life of value, that indicate a world of meaning. Anything that I call God has to be infinite. If I can describe it, that makes it finite. So I'm describing an aspect of God.
Yeah.
And cultural norms and psychology and our upbringing will determine perhaps what avenue we're going to follow to get in touch with God, but maybe not. God is that thing that the way it really feels to me is we come in here, we don't know how to do this, we stumble around trying to find it, and if we're sincere, we'll stumble in the right direction. And God is the flow of life moving from the darkness to the light. And as I start to listen to the feeling of that flow, I will start to become more aligned with that flow. And when I become aligned with that flow, it stops being a struggle. Because now I'm just course correcting, but going with this flow, not that I am given, but that I am. That's what spiritual work's about. I am that flow. Let me do the thing. You know, if you want to travel east, don't start out walking west. If you want to find flow, go in the direction of flow. If you want to get free of the ego, move in the direction of that which is not the ego, which is movement, flow, grace.
Your body literally is a community of 70 trillion cells that's spying on your brain. That's basically what it is. And if you were to sit there right now, Rain, and I said to you, I want you to fake standing up 10 times, but one time I want you to stand up. And we were measuring orthostatic pressure or blood volume, blood pressure. Before you even made the conscious choice of when it was, your body already knew, because it's got to squirt out a certain amount of adrenaline to keep the same volume of blood going to your brain. So your body's very precognitive. Okay, so what does that have to do with your friend? Everything, because most people are sitting on the couch with the remote control, the big screen TV, they got their iPad on their lap or their tablet, they got their phone over here, they got their computer over here, they got the beer and their peanuts here, and they go, I think I'm going to change tomorrow. Now, the body is the servant to the mind. That kind of decision has no effect on the body. That thought never makes it past the brainstem. It's theoretical, it's hypothetical, right? But what we discovered is when a person makes a decision to change with such firm intention that the amplitude of that choice carries a level of energy that causes their body to respond to their mind, that the choice that they make in that moment becomes an experience in time that they will never forget.
Wow.
They will say to you, Rain, I knew exactly where I was, the time of day it was, what I was doing when I made up my mind to change. And the stronger the emotion you feel when you make up your mind to change, the more you remember the choice. You're branding that choice neurologically in your brain, and that's giving your body a taste, a sampling of the future emotionally. And that kind of aligns the body to that feeling. Now, the person who searches for that same intensity every day will change. See, we don't do meditations in our work, you know, we don't pray, you know, to have our prayers answered. We get up as if they already are. Like there's a kind of an absolute state. Why? Because when you feel a different emotion and you've regulated that emotional change, you won't need anything outside you. Like that, a person doesn't want to leave the familiar emotional state until there is crisis, and then they have to, right? So change your emotional state by thought alone. Why? Because if you have an event in your life that's traumatic, the stronger the emotion you feel from that trauma, the more altered you are inside of you, the more the brain freezes a frame and takes a snapshot, and that's called a long-term memory. So we remember the events in our life that have high emotional quotients, all right? And that emotion then that's connected to that past experience says, oh, all men are this way, money is the root of all evil, and my ex is this way, whatever. You draw a conclusion about that experience. So how are you going to change that biologically? You got to make a choice with a level of amplitude that's greater than the trauma, greater than the betrayal, greater than the past event. Your body's got to come out of its resting state, and that moment has to define you. In other words, you got to create a long-term memory by thought alone. And so most people never come out of their resting state until there's crisis, right? Until there's breakdown, right? Until there's diagnosis. And so then we teach people, actually, okay, you got to come out of your resting state. And
like
you gotta,
if Maynard went bankrupt and his wife left him or something like that,
He
he'd
would
be
be
like,
like, oh my-
well, okay, I'm really now I've got to change
like
this
now-
procrastination
right.
now, and I'm going to take this snapshot and I remember this moment.
Yeah. And it's got to be that intensity, right? There's a strong contingency that is around this kind of concept of coming out of your resting state. And that's what That's what the walking meditations are about. It's like, it's for you to get practicing with your eyes open. We practice relaxing our heart and awaken the brain with our eyes open. Let's do that. Why? Because you want to be that way all day. And so you'll close your eyes, you'll get in that state, you'll open your eyes, you'll walk. You close your eyes again, you reboot. Get there again, you open your eyes, you walk again. You keep doing that enough times, that becomes the habit, right? So we use it in that way.
Since we're sitting here and I see you gazing fondly at that Dwight bobblehead on the shelf, I'd be remiss to not talk about our years on The Office. And I was thinking about your incredible line from season 9 that kind of summed up the whole show. Do you want to remind us what that line is?
I think about that line all the time.
Yeah. It's like one of the wisest, truest lines in the history of television. For real.
It's all Greg Daniels, and I just was a vessel. I wish there was some way to know you're in the good old days before you've actually left them. Or something close to that.
Very close to that, yeah.
It is such a poignant reminder that you're always in them, or that to just take stock, because this moment might be some serious good old days.
Yeah.
And
those 9 years were 100%.
For sure.
And that's one of my great regrets in life. I have few regrets. I've made a ton of mistakes, but few regrets is, and I was sharing this with BJ, that I knew, up here, I knew this was a great gig. I'm like, these people are amazing. The scripts are incredible. Audiences love the show. It's very funny. It's very smart. I get to play this incredible, memorable character. I knew beloved, iconic character.
Come on. Dwight Schrute is a legend.
Andy Bernard.
Well,
iconic. Mount Olympus of TV characters. but I knew it up here. I knew it cerebrally, but I really wish I had just spent more time just being like, this is it. It just doesn't get better than this. I knew it cerebrally, but like, wow, we are improvising. And as I was going back, I was remembering how much we improvised the Cornell stuff.
Yeah.
And we had so much stuff of you hitting me with the Prius and stuff. And we just would just kind of go. And these scenes are classic. If I could have just kind of like,
okay, but what would you
absorbed them deeper?
Sure. But what would that have looked like? Like, what would you have done or felt different?
More gratitude.
Yes.
Because for me, there was a lot of like, we were all on The Office trying to get a movie career.
Striving elsewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
And trying to set up production companies and trying to do, commercial gigs and, overall deals and, and everyone was, and we had great opportunities to do movies. You did Hangover, obviously, and so many great films we all got to do during those years. But it was like I wasn't as present as I could have been, and I wasn't as grateful as I could have been, because I was always thinking like, next hiatus, how do I get a movie lined up, or how do I get this other thing lined up? And I was always ahead of myself. So I won't say I never did, but I wish a lot more. I would have been like, wow, this is fucking amazing.
Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah.
I think it's partly a function of kind of what our business tells us to do and like prescribed for, like, here are the pathways. Here's what you're supposed to be.
Your agents call and they're like, what's your next script? And did you read those things?
There are a lot of external forces sort of telling you to keep striving and not to take stock, which is unfortunate. But it's also, I think, a function of that the age that we were. It's harder to, I think, feel present and grateful when you have so much life ahead of you and you're looking.
It was a bit old. I was on the older end of the cast. I didn't really start playing Dwight till I was like 39 or 40.
Yeah.
So I was in my 40s.
Yeah.
Krasinski was a little spring chicken.
Sure.
But I hear you. You're young. You've been striving for a long time. All of a sudden, you have this opportunity, and doors are open.
Yeah.
And like, hey, do you want to write a script? Do you want to develop material? Hey, they're interested in you for this. Do you want to meet with these filmmakers?
Yeah.
And you and I both struggled for a long time before we got The Office, and
long years of unemployment. So of course you want to take advantage and rise to that opportunity as well.
Yeah. That show, it's also, there's no way to know that how special that show was. We knew, like you said, we knew that it was special. We knew that we appreciated it and loved this community that we were so lucky to be a part of. I think all knew that, even with the stripe, but we didn't know how rare it was. I think that's what has locked in hindsight, is like just how special it was. We knew it was special. We loved it. Yeah. And I think we did. I think a lot of us, like, I do remember a lot of us reflecting at different times, just hanging out over the years, like just how much we loved being a part of that.
Yeah.
At the time.
You know who was great at that was Angela.
Yeah.
She was very good at like, isn't this great? I just love you all. And here we are. Yeah. And the scene is so funny and you all are so funny. And she was always great at kind of bringing things down in a good way.
Yeah. But I think it's really been in the years since where weirdly, like when you're in when we're on The Office, we're kind of striving for the next big great thing. Yeah. But now that we're like 10, 12, 15 years out, it's like, I just want that again.
Yeah.
Like I want to go back to that.
Yeah.
I want to be in that. I want to be with all of that wonderful energy and those funny scripts. I was reflecting with somebody recently how special the table reads were because that was 1 hour a week that we were all together.
Right.
Because we were shooting our different scenes all week, and sometimes there'd be conference room scenes where we're all in there together, and those are great. But the table reads, it was the whole community. It was the whole Office community. It was the writers, the producers, the entire cast, and even some people from NBC that we generally liked.
Yep.
and
they kind of left us alone, which was good because we were working as a show.
And I just always had a buzz going like in those table reads because it was just like this electric thing. Like, what are we gonna do? What's next? What's this next episode? What's it gonna be? And the new laughs, the new jokes, the new character discoveries, the new things that the writers cooked up.
And the amazing thing about it, by the way, is that when everyone was dismissed, you could stay if you wanted. And Greg would say, yeah, hang out. Let us know your thoughts. Yeah. And we're going to be talking about this and this needs to get fixed and stuff like that. Sometimes he would be like, everyone go, we need to rewrite this. And just leave us alone. But they were so open to our ideas and opinions. And that also is very rare.
Yeah.
What about Dwight Schrute versus Andy Bernard? What do you think about that? Looking back on that, it was a treat getting ready to talk with you and go back and look at some of those.
I wish I had rewatched some of that stuff.
There was always such a wonderful kind of tension and one-upsmanship between us, which I loved, for Michael's attention, for power within the office, for Angela for a couple of seasons. Yeah. But I thought they rode that balance so nicely where we didn't hate each other.
Well, no,
and it ended up being a really fabulous kind of camaraderie and mutual respect.
I think this is part of the miracle of that show, which is that you and I were playing like essentially quite toxic characters, like, or at least like characters that maybe had like warm hearts, but some real toxic and difficult traits and
antisocial traits
and coping mechanisms and so forth. But you and I had a ball doing that and portraying that, and that the joy that we felt and the ways that we made each other laugh and all those scenes where where Dwight and Andy are just like at it, but we were making each other laugh.
Yeah.
And I think that whatever that energy was that we really had, despite our characters' behavior, is what an audience knew or felt and at some level.
Yeah.
And the same goes for all of the you know, as toxic or antisocial as Michael Scott was in so many ways, like he's so beloved because I think the joy and compassion that we brought to performing those things and us as people being in the same space together and having an energy that we loved and cherished with each other, no matter what these crazy characters are doing. I always think that so much of the lasting appeal of that show, which has been so surprising, like this, but this is just me looking back, trying to kind of like understand it better. I always think like it's the joy and the fun and the just that kind of giddy delight that we all have felt, really felt making those scenes. And like I said, didn't matter how toxic the scene was, we were laughing and having fun doing it.
I mean, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about like how ballsy was it that here's a show and kind of the three leaders of the office, you know, Steve, you, and me as Dwight, were really kind of despicable, clueless, selfish, antisocial weirdos. And we're kind of like at the center of like running the office. Do you know what I mean? And a lesser show would have had like one office weirdo. There were a lot of other ancillary weirdos like, you know, Creed and whatnot. But that was a bold move to have so many anti-heroes.
You know, what's funny? It wasn't for everybody. My parents did not get it. My parents were of a generation where you don't sit in awkward moments, which is the entire tone of the show.
The premise.
Like the entire, the entire premise of that show's humor is to sit in discomfort and stew in people's awkwardness and toxicity. And my parents, God bless them, Southern, like, you make peace. You keep your company comfortable. You make them comfortable.
You have small talk that would fill in any uncomfortable silence.
And if something gets weird, you redirect. And, you know, you become like, I feel like a lot of Southern grace and Southern charm is really just is being a magician, like a misdirect master. You kind of like the minute something's weird or uncomfortable, it's like, look over here. This is pretty. Like, like, let's talk about this, or let's talk, you know. And so I remember that my parents early on, eventually I think they grew to love it and understand it. But those first few seasons I was on, they were just kind of like, it's hard for us to watch.
It's hard to watch.
It's hard to watch.
Yeah. My dad used to wear around a Dwight Schrute sweatshirt when the very first merchandising dropped in like season 3 or something like that. And then people would be like, "Oh, I love that show," and he'd be like, "That's my son."
Oh yeah.
So he loved it. He couldn't get enough of it. But when fans approach you, I imagine they do and they do Cornell heard of it.
Yeah.
And what else do you get approached with?
Nard dog. Yeah, that's the big
tuna.
People call me Big Tuna, which is ironic because I called Jim Big Tuna.
Right. That's not your nickname. They say to me, like, my favorite line is Bears beats Battlestar Galactica, which I never said. Jim says it.
Oh, that's so funny.
When he's impersonating Dwight.
Of course. That's like, so funny.
Can you sign that, or can you say say it to my friend on the phone?
Right.
It's like, I never said that line, but that's getting a little persnickety. But
no, of course. But I remembered that as a Dwight line. It's like, oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, even my agent for years called me Big Tuna. And it's like, have you watched the show, buddy? Like, what? And then that became its own joke. But yeah, Big Tuna and probably the Nard dog. People have shown me tattoos that they like, Nard dog tattoos, not on their butt, like Andy did.
Yeah.
But that's always one guy asked me recently on my book tour for Snafu. A guy asked me to sign his arm, and he showed me because he was going to get it tattooed. Right. And he showed me someone else's signature that was tattooed. I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
Another actor, he'd had sign his arm and had it tattooed.
That's a lot of pressure.
I didn't do it. I was like, not doing that. I'm not.
Yeah.
I like,
because what if you mess up or it's like shaky or
yeah. And by the way, that other signature did not look good. And I was like, you know what? I'll sign your book. Yeah. And then you can like Xerox that or Xerox. You can take a picture of it and have your tattoo.
You should have just gone like, that's my real signature. Like, one of the things the Office family has done and people talk about so much is what a positive impact it's made on their mental health and how much it's helped their anxiety and depression and loneliness. And they do feel like the Office cast is like their family. Have you encountered mental health struggles either with yourself or in your family?
Well, I mean, my nephew that passed away a year after my dad, we lost him to depression, and he just kind of got into a dark place he couldn't come out of. And I think about all the things I missed, all the signs I missed all the time. And I want to make sure with my kids that they feel very comfortable talking to me, and especially with our sons, just having real open dialogue and open communication and an open acceptance
about emotions and dark emotions.
Yes, and also about mental health.
Yeah.
And I am very thankful. I feel like our community of parents and at the school, it's very accepting to talk about your mental health now. And I know that's not everywhere, but I feel like our little nook where we live, people talk about it very openly.
Yeah.
And kids are much more open to say if they've had issues with anxiety or depression. And I'm thankful for that for this generation. I hope that continues, that level of just dialogue and normalizing the fact that, you know, we all struggle with different things. And when you struggle with something, you want to get the tools that help you cope and help you deal with that. And whatever those tools are, that shouldn't be anything you should be ashamed of. If you needed any kind of help with anything else, you know, if you needed a math tutor or, you know, someone to help you, like if you made the basketball team and you need someone to help you work on your basketball skills.
But you're talking about really releasing that stigma around mental health, that is something you can and should get help with.
Absolutely.
And that we kind of all at certain points in our lives are going to need help with. And by the way, for viewers, listeners right there, if this is triggering talking about suicide at all, if this is something you're thinking about, there's lots of help out there, and we're putting a suicide text line right here, chat line, phone number, reach out and get some help and get some counseling around it. Speaking of suicide and mental health, I think one of the biggest issues around it is that people feel like what they're feeling, that they're the only person feeling that way.
Yes.
And everyone is going about they go out in the world, everyone's cheery and going about their lives. You look on social media, everyone's like looking sexy at the beach and looking and, you know, curating their best and shiniest moments from their lives. And you have to understand, and because I've, as you know, been speaking about mental health stuff a lot recently in my own struggles and ups and downs, and people are so grateful because I think they're, you know, to hear that, oh, a celebrity, a wildly handsome celebrity like myself would be struggling, you know, with anxiety or depression or loneliness or addiction or any of these issues, are like, oh, I can relate. I think that means a lot. So it's super important to reach out and get help and understand that you really are not alone. You might feel alone, like you're the only person in this black pit that is feeling this way. Trust me, there are millions that are feeling that way. Find a way to connect and understand that people have felt this way. They've gotten through it, and they've gone through it and gone through to the other side and gotten, like you said, tools to help them get out of it.
Yes, I think that's so important. I think the thing, especially as we're getting older, because we are, Rain, you're getting older. You're getting older. Have we haven't done anything yet. Are we going to do stuff? No, but as we get older,
I just grow a beard over my jowls.
Well, it's coming for me, I'm sure.
I'm gonna grow a beard.
I'm going to grow a beard. But as we get older, I I just find it so important that people understand that not only are they not alone, but that other people want to see them. They, you know, people want to be seen, but to know that people want to see them. They want to help.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I was talking to Arthur Brooks, the happiness expert and whatnot, and he was talking about like, get off your phones, phone detox, social media detox, look in people's eyes, touch, conversation, hug, high five in the room. It's so important to just humans thrive with dopamine and oxytocin released in the brain through real connection, not the connection of a heart and a like and a thumbs up on the social media, which you are on way too much because you're constantly liking all my wife's posts.
I'm not on it that much, but I love your wife's posts. First of all, she's just so cool. She's really cool, and she's smart, and she's funny, and she travels and is well read, and she's a great writer, and I just dig her.
Now she's doing Kung Fu. She's studying Kung Fu. She practices with a sword in the driveway.
She's gonna kick your ass.
She's out in the driveway with a sword. She's
gonna totally kick your ass.
Crouching Tiger.
Kill Dragon. Kill Bill.
Crouching Tiger, Kill Bill. You idiot.
You idiot. Rain, by the way, always calls my children, hey, idiots. They love it.
Yeah.
They can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
He's like, what's up, idiots? They're like,
right.
Rain, funny.
They are a little slow.
They are not.
No, it's okay. It's okay to be.
You stop it.
The Soul Boom Podcast. Subscribe now on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and wherever else you get your stupid podcasts.